All right, all right. I hope everybody got a little break from the screen. It is a long afternoon, but this will be a pick me up if you're slugging for any reason. I am honored and pleased to introduce a friend, a partner in change and transformation, Lorrie Briggs. So let me just quickly introduce you, Lorrie, and then we'll get to the real meat. For those of you that don't know Lorrie, she is a civil servant of the state of Louisiana for not one, not two, but yes, 3+ decades. Talk about consistency and sticking with it. Lorrie is the grit master. She currently serves as the first Deputy Assistant Secretary for the newly created workforce section within the Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services. And she has worked in pretty much every position in the organization, I think, from the front line all the way up to her current leadership position. So she has seen it all. She has spent a lot of time working in child welfare, some time in corrections, child protection, economic stability, child support, SNAP, ENT. Did I mention TANF? She's seen it all. And so she's here today to share a little bit of her experience and her wisdom with us. And I should note that the state of Louisiana is on their own change journey right now, which Lorrie is helping to lead. So I'm sure she'll be speaking from that as well as prior years of experience. So welcome, Lorrie. Thank you for joining us. I want to start off with a question for you, Lorrie. You know, you've spent your whole career in government and you've spent a lot of time being a part of, observing, and now leading change. What would you say are some of those key lessons that you've learned about change?
Well, first, let me thank you for that introduction, John. You're way too kind, but I have to tell you, you made me tired because when I think about 3 decades, there's just so many lessons I've learned. I think the first thing, particularly the higher you move up at the highest levels, before you introduce a change, you really have to know your why for doing it. You know, people, if you're going to introduce this to your entire department, or if you're going to sell this to legislators or your community, you really have to tap into your why and know why you are doing this. And then I think another lesson is once you know your why, you have to make sure that the vision and mission that you have put out there aligns with that why. Because nobody's going to be ready for the change if you bring a change along and you haven't done the foundation work, what you need to do to prep people for something that's going to change. And then I think another lesson learned is we don't do a good enough job of mapping out who is going to be affected by the change. You know, if you don't understand and know that change is felt by the participants, it's felt by the workers and everyone else in your department, then you really don't know who to do change management with. Another lesson I think is that if you're going to do change management, you have to recognize that it can't just be done once. Can't just pull everybody to a big meeting and say, hey, we're going to do this. You have to really have a good, strong plan and you have to work at it. And when people give you pushback about change, you should get excited because that means they care enough to listen to you and to try to tell you where you may have some pitfalls. If you just get a lot of heads nodding, saying, yeah, we're for this, you should be really scared because that means nobody's going to do anything involving your change. And then I guess finally, keep moving with it. Keep making your change agile. You may start this change believing it's going to look this way, but as you work with people and as you do change management, recognize that your vision is not going to just fall apart. It's going to change and expand and get greater than you ever thought it could be.
I love that. Some real nuggets of wisdom for us there. Thank you. And I especially like the lead with your why, lead with the vision. So let's sort of ground this in the space that many of us on this call find ourselves in, which is leading change in government programs. It's hard to sustain change. It's hard to bring about change in government programs. There's just a whole set of complexities and challenges in the public sector. So Can you speak a little bit to some of those key ingredients for sustainable change in government programs?
Well, let me tell you, what I have learned is because I'm dealing, the state of Louisiana made a change in the 90s that they were going to drive people off of the public assistant roles, and they were going to drive 2 or 3 generations into poverty. And the way they did it, the way they made that sustainable change was they changed the policy and they changed the legislation. When you do those 2 things, you have a strong uphill battle for anyone to come behind you and make a difference. So what I would tell everyone is work on it, work on changing that policy, work on changing those legislations, and make sure you do it before you leave, because it will outlive you, your voice, everything you ever thought. It will outlive it.
It's great. So make your mark, make it hard to undo the change, I think is what you're saying there. So what about obstacles? You've seen a few obstacles to change. You're probably seeing some right now. What are some of those maybe top 3 obstacles that you faced in your experience with change, and how did you press through them? How did you overcome them? How did you deal with those?
I think the biggest obstacle is always staying in the box that you are familiar with. One of the things that I've learned is that when I seek help outside of what I know, my state system, my box, I get so much help and support. We recently, in fact, today had a meeting with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. And if you know anything about them, you would never think that they would align with anything that had to do with my mission and vision in Louisiana. But what I have learned by accepting their help and being a part of their team is they care about the people of Louisiana as much as I do. They may not have the same path to that caring, but they do, and that we agree much more than we disagree with. So don't make your own barrier. Be open to what other people say. Another barrier is not having enough like-minded people involved in the change and the need. I think in state government, we frequently are still living out the past 20 years ago, and we're always waiting for the new administration to come in. And so we're kind of stagnant because we worked on this 20 years ago, and then we know a new administration is going to change. So a lot of times people feel frozen, like, let's not do it. Let's not work on it because, hey, they're going to tell us what to do next. Another piece, I think one of the largest barriers is just really not recognizing what resources you actually have. You know, we're so focused on what's a barrier and what's a problem. We never seem to focus on all the things we do have and build upon it. Sometimes I think we make things harder than they need to be just because things are hard.
Can you say a little bit about, you kind of mentioned having those like minds, having the right people in the space. I wonder if you can lean into that a little bit more and maybe speak to how right now, I mean, you guys have some major transformations, some major reorganization going on in DCFS. How are you getting the right people to the table? How are you leveraging the teams to do the work?
I made a really big commitment when I first started the workforce development section was that I may not have a lot of resources, I may not have a lot of help, but if I have a team of people who are motivated, driven leaders, then I have more than 99% of the other people I know doing this work. And so I've made a really big commitment that when I hire people, I look for people who can be motivated leaders and can have that grit to do this work. But I also spend a lot of time challenging the people I have. The people who struggle with the motivation piece, I'm there working with them with the struggle to lift them up and say, this is a non-negotiable. Everything else is negotiable, but this is a non-negotiable. And those people who are new, they have to feel it and they all have to support each other in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've we've got a team of folks here representing 10 different jurisdictions, states, counties, tribal nations, and they're getting into this post TANF learning community phase, right? They've had this support, they've had this community for 12 or 18 months in some cases. And so it's a little bit of maybe a scary moment, maybe an exciting moment, maybe a little bit of both. What advice, suggestions, encouragement would you give to these teams as they sort of start to take the work they started under this initiative and do a little bit more of it, not on their own, right? But in a sense, without as much of this community and support in the way that it has been over the past 18 months?
So this may sound like oversimplification, but I'm just going to say love each other. You know, you all are the people who chose to go on this journey. So when you love each other, you support each other in good times and bad times. When you see somebody going off the rails, you pull them back in. Keep spreading the love, sharing the love, even when things seem to derail you from that. If you're always showing love and giving love and spreading grace within your group, you can do nothing but succeed.
And you sort of already spoke to this when you were in some ways speaking about the challenges that you face. But I mean, these teams are going to continue to encounter obstacles. They're going to continue to encounter resistance. What's your encouragement to them when they hit that wall, maybe 3-6 months from now?
Be happy and get excited, because that means you needed that barrier and you needed that wall to shake it up. Because I'm one of the few people in the world that love change. I love it because I feel like if I'm open to change, if I'm open to barriers and I'm open to struggles, that means I'm always shaking things up so nothing gets stale. And anybody who does the human services work knows that it's ever changing. New dynamics can come up. We had a pandemic, we have inflation. We have a war that everyone's worried about. There's so many things that change. And if you see a barrier as an opportunity, then you cannot go wrong. In fact, it should be the energizing thing in your group. When you're all getting around in a meeting and y'all all start complaining because you cannot move a boulder, you need to get up and do spirit fingers and go, yay! It means we need to do something different. We need to change. We need to get excited.
Awesome. I've got one more question for you, and I just want to go ahead and say, TLC, if y'all have questions for Lorrie, go ahead and queue them up or get ready to share, because we're going to have some time for that. Lorrie, I'm thinking about the role that leadership plays in change. And I'm not talking about the noun leaders. I'm talking about the verb leading. And so from your vantage point now, looking back over your 32-year career, and also seeing what it means for people at the very front line, people who are maybe new to the work or early in the work. How would you encourage teams to really tap into the leadership or leading potential of everyone that's involved in their organizations and teams?
You need to support leaders. Everybody sees those leaders. They are those little bright lights out there. And everybody has a tendency, when they start seeing those little bright lights, throwing water on them and throwing sand on them. Because if you're a little bright light, that means I have to shine brighter, or, something's going to happen there. You may get more attention than I will, or you may be saying something that makes me feel uncomfortable because you're challenging me and you're telling me it's time to change. Leaders have got to recognize that when they hear these voices, when they see these bright lights, they have got to stop dumping sand and water on them. They should develop a culture that says, everyone is here. The table is for everyone. There's a roast, there's chicken, there's dessert for everybody. There's room for every type of person, every idea. And we are better when we are inclusive and we support change and growth and people who want to come in here and tell us how to do it.
I think that's so important for this work, Lorrie, and especially given the legacy of, leadership really depends on getting promoted into a position, which might happen once a decade in government. What you're talking about is just a fundamental shift in how we think about that. And I think it's so critical for this work. All right, well, I could keep asking questions of Lorrie all day long, but I will restrain myself for a moment here and open it up. What's on your mind? What comments, reactions, questions might you want to propose here in this space?
Oh, come on. Don't get scared now.
I know, right?
Now. Oh, my goodness.
So I just have this is Venus Williams. I'm sorry, from Anne Arundel County. So this was just moving around in my head. It kind of stems from something that you said, Ms. Briggs, and thank you for speaking to us, as well as you, John. And it's about the comfort zone, right? So we know leaders, they don't change in the government frequently. But the comfort zone for those that stay, like you said, you've been around 30 years, that becomes a comfort zone. How do you work with those individuals that are where you are, and those of us that's like, but things still can change? How would you address that group?
I am a thorn in their side. What I do is I call them out. I say, you can act like you're brand new and I'm brand new, but I'm not. And really kind of make them feel uncomfortable, make them listen when they don't want to listen. Be the person in the room that everybody wants to shut up and are so excited when you happen to have a conflict and can't come. Because when you keep putting something on a table, eventually someone will join you and will help you and move it. And I see it every day. 2 years ago, this was a dark, long journey. And I just kept being thorns in people's sides. And now I have all these warriors with me saying, you know what? I don't remember who was the first person who said it, but this is wrong. This is wrong.
Thank you.
All right, we got a question from Chippewa Cree here in the chat. Lorrie, can you describe how you work as a team? How does everyone participate? How do you get people engaged?
So the first thing is you have got to develop the relationships. You cannot get everybody on board if you don't know who you're working with. And I know people hate when I say spread love and all of that, but it's love in the agape term. You have to care enough about people to make them feel like they should care about people. So once you care about people and you develop a genuine relationship, it's easier to get somebody to participate. But then you also need to give them challenges. You know, you have to, when they're quiet, you have to say, oh, well, I think you need to come here with me. Or I think you need to present this for me. Or you know what? You're hiding behind a bush, but I know you're an expert in this. I need you to lead this. Never stop. And then you need to go and sit next to them and hold their hand. You know, you never stop trying to figure out what their why is, and then remind them that in order to get their why met, they have to grow and change. They have to feed it.
Well said. Mr. Giles, what you got for us?
Good afternoon. I'm a little baffled. I love what you're saying, definitely. But when we talk about leadership and we talk about direction, I think sometimes direction being compromised is a very dangerous place to be in. And if we're taking everyone's suggestions all the time, that will cause us to end up in circles and not going from A to Z. Can you help me with that?
Yes, I can, because you sound like you're probably of the generation where I am, where what happened was we showed up, they told us what to do, and we got it done. We didn't ask questions. We didn't give feedback. I got you. And I love those times. Those times were safe. And those times you always knew what your job was. The problem is we don't have a plethora of these well-trained leaders who stayed around for 30 or 40 years. And let me tell you a little secret, that the new people, they cannot even conceptualize that their opinion is not important and that it shouldn't be considered. I'm not telling you that you should do what everybody says to do. You always want to make sure, though, that you've heard it, you've considered it, and you've said, hey, I don't think I can do that. Remember, I am the boss, but next time we roll around with this project, I'm going to put you on it and see if you can work something out. It's really important with those relationships too. When you develop relationships, they recognize when, hey, the rubber meets the road and she really does mean this.
Thank you very much.
Great question. Renee, I see your hand up. I'm going to the chat first for a question from WA and the Pennsylvania team. Lorrie, any tips on seeking out and finding the not so obvious leaders? It can be very easy to pile on more work to the clear leaders, but the harder thing is to find, foster, and empower more leaders, especially in government.
Well, I'm going to tell you that you should make it the duty of every supervisor and every manager in your organization to identify the skill sets of their people. And when you have certain tasks to do, even if it means that somebody is a troublemaker and you reach out and you say, give me somebody who you don't normally put in a team meeting. And they say, well, I don't want to tell you who they are because they're going to cause all kinds of trouble. I say, go ahead, put them in this team meeting. Never shy away, because you never know. Maybe they're angry and causing so much trouble because nobody's supporting them and they're putting dust and water on their light. Engage with your people. Just because you're a deputy assistant secretary, you should not spend 6 months without talking to a participant or talking to one of your frontline workers.
Awesome. Miss Renee from Team North Carolina, what you got for us?
Yes, right. I have a comment, not a question. I've been listening to you, and you are just so inspiring. To be in this field for 30 years and have the smile that you have on your face and the positivity that you're exuding gives me hope. I know I won't be here for 30 years because I'm already in my 60s. But for what little time I have left, I want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. I want to say thank you for doing the work that you're doing in your state. And this has truly been eye-opening, that know that there is positivity in this field for many, many years. So thank you, bless you, and I hope that you continue to lead as it appears that you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Who else? Question, comment, reaction?
Hi, this is Melissa with Washington State. I'll just share, and one thing I took note of was some of the discussion that you had around sustaining change and the idea it's not just you go out once and then, oh, everything's magically great, good to go forever. It's that you have to continually kind of reemphasize a message and embed it into what you're doing. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you.
Lorrie, I'm going to throw another question out here. This theme of leadership seems to have really resonated with the group. And I want to ask you about, how do you as a leader cultivate that psychological safety, that space for people to kind of come out and be themselves and engage authentically, maybe take some risks, be a little vulnerable in the change process? Can you speak to that?
So once again, you have to develop the relationships. I can't say it enough. You have to develop the relationships. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be honest when you don't know, you don't understand, when you mess up. And when you see your staff mess up, you have to advocate for them. You have to tell them, you know, everybody makes mistakes. I don't want you to make this twice, but it doesn't mean that it's over for us. And you always have to reset things. You know, people frequently feel like if you have a dust up or you had a problem or you made a big mistake, then everybody makes a big red mark against you. And you know what? I've worked with the state a long time and I had a lot of big red marks. And I always knew those people who were checking those things off. I am just determined I'm never going to be that person. I'm always going to give people second and third chances because my expectation is they do the same on down so that they're doing that for their participants too. Don't put somebody in a box. When I was 21-year-old Lorrie doing a horrible job as a probation and parole officer? Should I have my whole life destined because of the way I screwed up then? Or am I going to give the opportunity to grow and people are going to support me so that I can meet my full potential? Because if we don't show how to do that, how can our first line staff really do that?
So great. Question from Jeanette here in the chat. Do you have a succession plan in place? How are you building the next leaders?
So Jeanette knows I did have a succession plan, but the problem when you develop motivational leaders, people always think that that's something magical happens. So they steal your leaders, you know? So Jeanette knows that I had a wonderful succession plan, and I had a great leader who recently left to go back to child welfare to help them. So my succession plan is the person who I picked to take her place. I'm going to pick a motivational leader and I'm going to work with her. But what I'm also doing is I'm planting seeds everywhere so that I am trying to develop motivational leadership in every area. And I tell all my staff at every meeting I have with them, it is my job that when I walk out the door, 100 of you come and storm the gates, and there's so many of you all to choose from that they just cry because they can't pick which one to take.
It's awesome. All right, y'all, we've got about 8 minutes left with Lorrie. You don't want to waste a minute with Lorrie. So what else you got? Question, comment, reaction? All right, Mr. Giles, round two, let's go.
Here I go again. In your professional opinion, obviously you're very passionate about what you're doing. Would you say, I'm from the country, we talk about the chicken or the egg, would you say it's more important to concentrate on the morale versus the productivity, or the productivity and then the team morale?
Well, I'm from the country too, Mr. Giles. I'm from St. Landry and Acadia Parish in Lafayette, so I know it. So I'm going to tell you this. I think you have to work on both. You have to, the only way you can get productive is if people feel good and feel like they can succeed and that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Because Mr. Giles, when dinosaurs ruled the earth and I was a case manager, there was only one way to skin the cat. But now everything is more complex and everything is more difficult. So if we work on making people feel like it's not about a widget, it's about how do you empower yourself, and we engage each other to teach other people to do it. Because I'm going to tell you, when I worked on productivity alone, and I did that for a long time, you know, because that was the culture that I worked in. What happened was people did just what I asked them to do. Now that I focus more on their well-being and empowering, engaging, they do things that I could never imagine could get done because I don't have that kind of imagination or skill.
And if I can put that point you just made, Lorrie, in context with what's currently going on in Louisiana right now, I mean, I don't know that people on this call totally appreciate how much change is currently happening in Louisiana. I mean, I'm going to miss it, but right, you basically restarted your TANF program. You're standing up an employment and training program. You are kind of taking over and redesigning TANF policy. Your caseloads are going through the roof because you're actually providing a program and services now. And there's a whole culture change afoot within the agency. And that was probably what, 30% of what you're doing?
Probably, yeah.
So I think it just sort of lends itself to the point that you just made. There's so much going on. It would be easy to say productivity, productivity, productivity. We just got to get the work done. There's so much change, get it done. And yet your productivity is really going to be catalyzed by that motivation.
Without a doubt, because the truth of the matter is we can't ever get everything done. We're lucky if we get 30% of what we need to get done in a day. But you can get 30% in a grueling way where nobody feels good about it, or you can get 30% where everybody feels they had a part to play in it and they can be proud of what they did.
Absolutely. All right, guys. What else? Other questions? All right, Jeanette Hersick. We have two Jeanette H's, Lorrie, just so you know. Jeanette Hersick asks, how do you shift the performance measures for staff? How do you change that performance mindset?
So you really literally have to recognize and think of yourself, who created these performance measures? Everybody wants to talk about, well, work participation rate. Well, one of the things that I've learned in my journey, because I'm nowhere near an expert in TANF policy and federal regulations. But what I recognize is all the people that, all the states that I visit, it's the same thing. They're all trying to find a way around workforce participation. They do lots of different things, and they do that so that they could provide services that they know need to be provided and are long-term. So what I have to do is really talk to my staff about, like, who says that's what we should be doing? Let's talk about what will happen if we fail at that. But let's also talk about what will happen if we succeed at all the things that can go right. And I think just really challenging it. When they get in a rut and they bring it up again, I ask them, go look at some other states, go talk to me, see what other people are doing. Is that the only thing? And my assistant secretary, Shavonna Howard, she hates the letter of credit we have. And I tell her, I love it, because so many other states have found a way other than the letter of credit to really be able to work in this space. Well, Louisiana, that's what we have for this minute. And it's my job to figure out all the other things and put forward all the other things that really need to be measured, so that maybe one day our federal partners will listen and change some of the things that they've put out too.
Great. All right, we got one more here. Any tips for spreading the love and building momentum with staff in a virtual or a hybrid working environment?
So believe it or not, that I created a workforce development section that did not exist in the middle of COVID. So I have to tell you that we developed relationships before ever seeing each other. And what we did was we made a point of trying. We, just like you would have internal meetings, every meeting you would have in person, we had virtually. And we played games, and we did exercises to learn more about each other. Well, now that we're in the hybrid virtual space, the one thing I know is you cannot do case management on the telephone or on the computer. So what I would tell you is you can't develop staff and you can't spread love solely on the computer. You have to, I had tri-region meetings throughout the state in November and December. So what I did was I got some accountability partners within my group. I was not ever going to be able to get there unless I had other people helping me. And we were able to meet personally. We were able to talk, and I was able to get some of those bright lights, and they're going to help me. Their suggestion to me, I asked them what their suggestion was to spread more love and to build momentum and continuity in this time when we're doing hybrid. And they said they wanted to, believe it or not, have more virtual meetings, because back during COVID, we had done that more often. So they saw me and the leaders more often. So they're going to help me have these meetings. They're going to be my accountability partners, and they're going to present at these meetings so I can rest while they're doing all of that.
I love it. Dr. Nicole, final say.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was unmuted. So, Lorrie, first of all, a pleasure to meet you. This is my first encounter with the force of nature called one Lorrie Briggs. So I'm just like trying to hold on to my hat. But I want to ask, we had a theme come up about resilience and self-care of staff in particular. And so not even resilience, more like renewal, how to take care of staff. So with you as a motivational leader, that is seeding many other motivational leaders, how do you take care of yourself? How do you keep your own fire bright? And how do you keep, renew your spirit? Because you more than the rules and regs, that's evident. So how do you keep that?
Well, you know what? I have accountability partners. I find that the more I take care of my staff, the more they take care of me. So everybody that I reach out to and spread love to, they reach out and spread love to me. So that's number one. Number two, whenever I feel like my well is dry, I go out in the field and I meet with participants and I meet with staff and I connect with my why. Every time I feel I can't do this one more time, that is what I do. And number three, I try to develop a good, healthy family relationship. Because a lot of times, this work is so massive, you forget that the most important people are your own family. So I work hard to love them as much as I love the people here so that they can love me and take care of me. And when they think I'm feeling down, they reach out and lift me up too.
And now you all
on fire.
I was going to say, now you can all see why I'm a card carrying member of the Lorrie Briggs fan club, and we are accepting applications for new members. Lorrie, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. We really appreciate it.
I love all of you all. Spread love. And if you need some, come and talk to me.
Thanks, Lorrie. Jeanette?
Yeah, thank you.